The year is 1944. World War II is still raging. Somewhere over the South Pacific Ocean, two fighter planes are hit and start falling from the sky. Both pilots eject and parachute down toward a mysterious island below. One pilot is American. His name is Hank Marlowe. The other is Japanese. His name is Gunpei Ikari. They are enemies. And the moment their feet touch the ground, the fight begins. Guns fire. Boots pound the dirt. The two soldiers chase each other from the beach deep into the jungle, neither one willing to give up. The chase finally ends when Hank reaches the edge of a cliff. There is nowhere left to run. Gunpei sees his chance and attacks with his sword. Hank catches the blade with his bare hands, no weapon, just raw survival instinct, and shoves Gunpei back, knocking the sword away. But Gunpei pulls out a knife. He lunges at Hank and pins him down. The blade is inches from Hank's throat. Both men are breathing hard. This is it. And then a shadow falls over them. A giant hairy hand rises over the edge of the cliff. Then a massive head appears, a face, and then the roar, deep, thunderous, shaking the very ground beneath them. A roar that makes both soldiers forget they were ever enemies. Something enormous is watching them from the cliff. Far away from that island, in Washington, D.C., a taxi pulls up in front of the White House. Two men step out. The first is Bill Randa, the head of a secretive U.S. government organization called Monarch. The second is Dr. Houston Brooks, a geologist. They are here to meet Senator Willis, and they are desperate. Monarch is out of money. This meeting is their last chance. The senator receives them in his office, but he is clearly skeptical. He looks like a man who has heard too many crazy stories. Randa and Brooks begin their pitch quickly. They tell him about an uncharted island in the South Pacific. Legends call it Skull Island, the place where God did not finish creation. Ships and planes that go near it disappear without explanation. And Randa believes the nuclear tests conducted in 1954 were not tests at all. They were attempts to destroy something living on that island. The senator stands up and starts walking out. He has heard enough. But Randa and Brooks follow him down the hallway, still talking. They tell him there is a military mission already going to that region. They can attach themselves to it without much extra cost. And whatever is on that island, they cannot let the Russians find it first. That last line stops the senator cold. He turns around and agrees. But he makes one thing clear. This is the last favor he will ever do for them. Randa nods and adds one more request. They will need a military escort. In Vietnam, an American air base is buzzing with excitement. The war is over, and the soldiers are finally going home. We meet a group of them here. Officers Glenn Mills, Earl Cole, Reg Slivko, Reilly, and their commanding officer, Lieutenant Colonel Preston Packard. There is drinking and celebration all around. But Packard is not celebrating. He sits alone in his office, staring at the wall. Major Jack Chapman checks in on him. Chapman already has a new job lined up for when he gets home. Packard, on the other hand, feels empty. Like everything he fought for meant nothing. Like the war ending is not a victory. It is just an ending. That night, Packard receives a call. There is a new mission. He does not hesitate for even 1 second. He accepts immediately. Meanwhile, in Saigon, Randa and Brooks are looking for one more person. They walk into a bar and find him, James Conrad, a former British Special Air Service captain. He is playing pool, winning money off locals, and handling himself with the easy confidence of someone who has survived a lot of dangerous places. When his opponents get angry about losing and try to jump him, Conrad knocks them all out with a pool cue without breaking a sweat. A moment later, the three men are sitting at a table. Conrad listens to the offer and immediately says it sounds extremely dangerous, so he asks for 5 times the amount they are offering, plus a bonus if they all make it back alive. Randa and Brooks agree. Conrad then asks what exactly they are tracking on this island. Randa tells him they just need his skills in navigating dangerous territory. Conrad is not satisfied with that answer, but he takes the job anyway. In another part of the city, a photojournalist named Mason Weaver is working in her darkroom, developing photographs, when her phone rings. She has been accepted into Randa's expedition. She is thrilled. When asked why she wants to go, she explains that she has been hearing the same story from very different sources. When multiple people are all telling the exact same thing, it usually means someone told them to. And when people are told what to say, it means someone is hiding the truth. Something is going on, and Weaver wants to find out what. A few days later in Bangkok, everyone gathers to board the ship. The soldiers are not happy about this new mission. They were supposed to be going home. Weaver introduces herself to Steve Woodward, a NASA employee, and then to Packard, who already knows her anti-war journalism and is not a fan. But everyone boards, and the ship sets sail. On deck, a NASA official named Victor Neves gathers the group and gives a briefing. He explains that Skull Island is surrounded by a permanent storm system. That is why no one has found it. The storm keeps it hidden from the outside world. But Packard's military helicopters should be powerful enough to push through it. Neves also introduces Brooks, Randa, and their third scientist, scientist, San Lin. Brooks takes over from there. The plan is to drop seismic explosives across the island. The vibrations will bounce off the ground below and map out the underground terrain. Then Chapman stands up and gives the most important information of all. The storm will block all radio contact. Once they go in, they are completely on their own. In exactly 3 days, a rescue team will be waiting at the north end of the island. That is the only safe window to leave, and if they miss it, they will not get another chance for a very long time. After the briefing, Conrad and Weaver wander the ship separately and end up running into each other. Neither one believes they were given the full story. They question each other's reasons for being here, half joking, half serious. There is already a spark between them, curiosity mixed with tension. The island appears on the horizon, and the storm surrounding it looks far more terrifying in person than it did on any map. Neves wants to turn back. Randa insists they push through. Packard makes the final call. They are going in. All the soldiers and the civilian team board a fleet of military helicopters and lift off. The early part of the flight is smooth, engines roaring, blades cutting through clean air. But the moment they hit the storm, everything changes. Lightning crashes around them constantly. The helicopters shake violently. Visibility drops to almost nothing. But Packard stays calm, talking his crew through it with steady authority, and one by one the helicopters make it through. On the other side is Skull Island, and it is breathtaking. Green mountains covered in thick jungle, ancient rock formations, waterfalls tumbling into rivers below. For just a moment, everyone stares in silence. Then the mission begins. The civilian team, minus Weaver, Randa, and Conrad who stay on the ground, watches as the helicopters spread out across the island to begin dropping the seismic bombs. The explosions ripple through the earth, and the readings come back almost instantly. Brooks stares at the data, and his theory is confirmed. The bedrock is hollow. This island is like a shell. Something massive exists underneath it. Everyone is excited. This is working, and then the sky changes. One helicopter is suddenly struck by a flying tree, not thrown by the wind, but thrown deliberately. Another helicopter is grabbed by a giant hand, spun around, and a soldier gets one terrifying look at an enormous face before being swallowed whole. Alarms go off across every aircraft. Pilots shout. Soldiers grab their weapons, and rising against the horizon, enormous, prehistoric, unstoppable, is Kong. He stands there for a moment, roaring at the helicopters buzzing around him like insects. When the soldiers open fire, Kong responds without hesitation. The bullets do nothing to hurt him, but they are enough reason for him to defend himself. Kong moves through the fleet with terrifying efficiency, knocking helicopters out of the sky one by one, smashing soldiers that hit the ground. He is not hunting them, he is removing them, and he does not stop until every single helicopter is down and the sky is clear. The expedition is in ruins. The team is scattered across the island in separate groups. The first group has Weaver, Neves, Slivko, Brooks, San Lin, and Conrad. Conrad immediately takes charge and starts guiding them north toward the meeting point. The second group is just Chapman, completely alone, moving through the jungle, trying to reach anyone on the radio. He manages to send Packard his location just before the signal dies. The third group is Packard, Reilly, Cole, Woodward, Mills, and Randa. When Packard finds Randa in the jungle, he pulls his gun and demands the truth. And this time, Randa gives it to him. Monsters are real. They have always been real. Randa has known for years and nobody believed him. The bombs were not dropped for geology. They were dropped to provoke something, to shake whatever lives here out of hiding. Years ago, Randa was on a ship that was attacked by a sea monster. He survived, but the government covered it up, told his family the ship sank in combat, and made sure the public never heard a word. Randa has spent his entire life trying to prove what he knows is true, and now he wants to destroy these creatures before they find their way to the surface world. Packard listens to all of it. Then he holsters his gun and says simply, "He is the cavalry." Back with Conrad's group, they walk carefully through the jungle. They pass a lake where an enormous bison-like creature stands watching them. Slivko raises his rifle. Conrad pushes the barrel down. The creature is not attacking. It is just looking. After a moment, it turns and walks away calmly. Conrad has already understood something important about this island. If you don't threaten it, it won't threaten you. Packard's group pushes through denser jungle, searching for Chapman and the military weapons cache. Without warning, one of the soldiers is suddenly killed, a long spike driven straight through his throat. Everyone looks up. Above them, hanging from the trees, is a massive spider, its legs thick as tree trunks and sharp as blades. The team opens fire, but the spider grabs Mills in one of its legs. With a friend in the line of fire, no one can shoot. so Mills pulls out his knife and starts cutting at the leg holding him. It takes strength and desperation, but he breaks free and drops to the ground, and the moment he is clear, the soldiers open fire and bring it down. Conrad's group stumbles across ancient ruins buried deep in the jungle, crumbling stone walls, old carvings, the feeling of something sacred and forgotten. The moment they step inside, they are surrounded by native people with weapons pointed at them. Guns come up on both sides. A standoff tightens. Then a voice calls out from among the natives. A man steps forward, old now, weathered, with wild hair and an American flight suit that has seen decades of wear. It is Hank Marlowe, the WY pilot, the man who landed on this island in 1944 and never made it home. When Hank tells the natives everything is fine, the weapons come down. He leads Conrad's group into the village and begins explaining everything. The village is protected by a massive stone wall, but that wall was not built to keep Kong out. It was built to keep something else out, something that lives underground. Inside an old shipwreck that serves as a kind of museum, Hank shows them ancient paintings on the walls. For thousands of years, the native people of this island lived in constant fear of monsters. But then, slowly, some of those monsters began protecting them instead. Kong is their king. He is something close to a god to these people. He does not attack unless he is threatened. It was not Kong who killed Gunpei. It was something else entirely, creatures called skull crawlers, giant lizards that live deep underground. The bombs woke them up. Kong can normally manage them, but there is one, the biggest one, that is a different level of danger. It is the one that killed Kong's family, and it is still down there. Conrad tells Hank about the rescue window. 3 days, north end of the island. Hank shakes his head. Getting to the north end on foot in 3 days is impossible, but there might be another way. Hank and Gunpei had been building a boat before Gunpei died. If the team helps finish it, they might be able to sail around to the rescue point in time. Everyone gets to work. Meanwhile, Packard's group is slogging through a dark swamp when they encounter a flock of bizarre birds, long-necked and strange. They do not attack. Packard shoots one anyway for no reason. The whole flock scatters. The soldiers are growing more anxious by the hour, unsure if they are going to make it. Cole tells them to hold together and trust Packard. Back at the village, while others work on the boat, Weaver walks along the outside of the wall, taking photographs of the natives. She hears a noise on the other side, a low, distressed sound. She climbs up to look. One of those large bison-like creatures is trapped underneath a crashed plane, struggling to get free. Weaver climbs down and tries to lift the wreckage herself. She cannot. The plane is enormous. Then Kong arrives. He reaches down and lifts the entire plane off the animal with one hand, completely effortlessly. He sets it aside. The creature runs off. Kong looks at Weaver for a long, quiet moment. Then he turns and walks away. That moment changes everything Weaver thought she knew about this place. In the jungle, Chapman is alone and exhausted. He finds a stream and stops to refill his canteen. That is when he sees Kong again, the giant ape walking to the river to drink. Chapman stays perfectly still, hidden behind a rock, watching. Kong reaches into the water and pulls out a massive octopus. The creature wraps its tentacles around Kong's arm, but Kong tears them off one by one and eats them casually, then drags the rest of the octopus away behind him. Chapman breathes again. Then he sits down on what he thinks is a fallen log. The log moves. It is not a log. It is a long creature perfectly camouflaged to look like one. Chapman fires at it and it runs off. But the sound of the shot echoes through the trees, and that sound draws something else toward him. He barely has time to look up before a skull crawler erupts from the ground and swallows him whole. The boat is finished by morning. Hank retrieves the sword from Gunpei's grave to bring with him. He explains quietly that even though they started as enemies, Gunpei became his brother. He is not leaving without that sword. Everyone boards. After a few tense moments of mechanical struggle, the engine catches and the boat moves. Hank talks about his family back home, his wife and son, who he has not seen in over 20 years. The team listens quietly. Then a radio crackles. It is Packard. He fires a signal flare, and the boat crew spots it. The two groups are close enough to link up. But before the reunion feels complete, one of those giant birds swoops down and takes Neves, snatching him right off the boat and carrying him away. There is nothing anyone can do. They keep moving. When the groups reunite on shore, Conrad immediately tells Packard they need to get back to the boat and head for the meeting point. They do not have time to waste. But Packard refuses. He wants to find Chapman, and he wants the weapons cache. Hank argues loudly. Going west means going straight into skull crawler territory. It is suicide. But Conrad, whose job is tracking, agrees to lead them, on one condition. They are back by nightfall. They head west. Along the way, they pass through a valley of enormous bones. The skeletons of Kong's parents, long dead. The size of them is almost beyond comprehension. Hank is horrified, but Packard pushes forward anyway. A strange mist hangs low over the bones. One of the soldiers drops a cigarette into it. The mist ignites. Explosions rip through the area. Then a skull crawler comes. The team dives behind the enormous bones, hiding in the shadows. The creature is massive, a long-bodied lizard moving on two powerful arms, no back legs, its head sweeping back and forth. It stops and vomits something up, and the object that lands near Conrad's feet has a name tag on it. Chapman's name tag. Then Randa's camera flash goes off by accident. The skull crawler launches at him and swallows him in an instant. Everyone opens fire. The creature dives in and out of the mist, impossible to track. It attacks again and again. It gets in front of Hank, who swings the sword and cuts it, buying a second of space before it shoves him aside and takes another soldier. It turns toward Weaver. A soldier hits it with a flamethrower. The lizard knocks that soldier away with its tail, causing an explosion that sends Slivko flying and knocks him unconscious, near canisters of leaking gas. Conrad grabs Hank's sword and a gas mask from the ground, and pushes into the gas cloud. He cuts through the birds that have appeared out of nowhere, fighting his way to Slivko, but the skull crawler is right behind him. Just as it closes in, Weaver throws Conrad's lighter. The whole thing ignites. The skull crawler burns. When the smoke clears and the group pulls themselves together, Conrad shows Packard the name tag. Chapman is dead. There is no reason to keep going. Packard does not care. He wants to reach the weapons cache and use those explosives to kill Kong. He blames Kong for everything. Conrad, Hank, Weaver, and the scientists push back hard. Kong was defending himself. Kong is not the enemy. The skull crawlers are the real threat, and Kong is the only thing keeping them in check. Packard will not listen. Both sides draw weapons. The tension is a razor's edge. Conrad steps between them. He gives Packard the location of the weapons, but he takes the civilians and heads back to the boat. Woodward goes with Packard's soldiers. The rest leave. Before rejoining the group, Conrad and Weaver climb to high ground to scout the route to the boat. They reach the edge of a cliff together, looking out over the river in the fading light. And then Kong appears beside them, just standing there in the dark, enormous and quiet. He does not attack. He recognizes Weaver. She reaches up slowly and places her hand on his nose. He lets her. For one long, still moment, a human and a god look at each other. Then an explosion goes off in the distance, Packard's trap being set. Kong hears it and roars and leaves. Conrad and Weaver return to the group and send the scientists back to the boat. But when Hank hears what Packard is planning, he refuses to leave. He comes with them. At the weapons site, Packard and his soldiers set their trap. They pour accelerant into the water around the area, creating a ring of fire. They wait. Kong comes walking through the water, massive and powerful, and then the ring ignites. The flames surround him from all sides. Kong screams in pain, trying to move, trying to break free. Even for a creature his size, fire is fire. He thrashes and struggles, barely able to think through the pain. But eventually, with everything he has, Kong pushes through the flames. He smashes Woodward with one hand and then collapses to the ground, exhausted and hurt. Packard orders his soldiers to place their charges around the fallen Kong and detonate them. The soldiers move forward, but their hands are slow. Their eyes are troubled. They watched Kong suffer, and something in them does not feel right about finishing this. They are still hesitating when Conrad, Weaver, and Hank arrive. Soldiers on one side, civilians on the other, weapons pointed everywhere. Packard is ranting about duty and dirty work and what soldiers have to do. Nobody moves. Then Slivko quietly turns his weapon toward Packard instead of Conrad. The standoff breaks. Conrad tells Packard it is over, and then the water explodes. The biggest skull crawler, the one that killed Kong's family, bursts out of the water. It is enormous, easily the most terrifying thing anyone has seen on this island. Everyone runs. Everyone except Packard, who turns back toward Kong and reaches for the detonator. He is going to blow Kong up even now. Kong wakes up. One massive hand comes down. Packard is gone. Kong rises to fight the skull crawler. The two enormous creatures clash, Kong punching, the lizard snapping and coiling. But the skull crawler is fast and relentless. Kong is still hurt from the fire. The lizard gets the better of him and pins him down. The survivors sprint through the jungle toward the edge of the island. Weaver peels off toward high ground. She needs to fire a flare so that Brooks on the boat can see their location. The soldiers create a distraction to buy her time, running from the skull crawler and drawing its attention. Cole makes a decision. He stays behind. He arms his explosives, ready to blow himself up when the creature comes close enough. But the skull crawler knocks him aside with its tail before he can do it. The creature is closing in on the rest of the team when Kong comes crashing back into the fight. He is hurt, He is tired, but he is not done. He punches the skullcrawler again and again, driving it back, fighting with everything he has left. Weaver fires the flare from the cliff above. The lizard slams Kong back with a violent hit. Kong crashes into a pile of old chains and gets tangled in them. He pulls and twists but cannot break free. The skullcrawler moves in for the kill, and that is when the boat arrives. Brooks and San Lin come in shooting, giving the soldiers a way out. One by one, they climb aboard. Weaver fires one more shot, right at the skullcrawler's neck. It flinches just long enough for Kong to get one arm free. He grabs a length of chain and swings it at the lizard, hitting it with bone-crushing force. Then he grabs the creature and slams it into the side of the mountain. The impact sends Weaver tumbling off the cliff into the water below. Kong sees her fall. He hits the skullcrawler a few more times to keep it down, then reaches into the water. His huge hand closes gently around Weaver and lifts her up, but the skullcrawler rises one final time. It leaps onto Kong's back and wraps its tongue around Kong's wrist, trying to drag him down. Kong looks at the creature, then he grabs the tongue with his free hand, and he pulls. He tears the skullcrawler apart from the inside out. Kong opens his hand. Weaver is still breathing. He sets her down on the ground as carefully as he can, like something fragile he does not want to break. Conrad runs to her side. They look up together as Kong stares down at them one last time. Then he turns and walks back into the island. Everyone gets on the boat. They sail toward the meeting point without saying much. They are alive. They are shaken. When they finally spot the rescue helicopters overhead, it feels almost unreal. On the boat, the survivors talk quietly about what comes next. The world is going to want to know what happened here, but they make a decision together. They are not going to say anything. Whatever is on this island stays on this island. We see Kong one last time, standing on a ridge, roaring at the sky, and then 2 final scenes. In the first, Hank Marlowe walks through an airport and sees his wife and his son for the first time in over 20 years. He stops. She turns. They run to each other, and he holds them both like he never wants to let go. In the second, Conrad and Weaver are brought into a dark room. For a moment, it feels like they have been captured, but it is just Brooks and San Lin. They are not in trouble. Brooks and San Lin have found something, footage from a cave on the island, ancient drawings on the walls, and those drawings are not of skullcrawlers or giant bison. They are of other monsters. Monsters like Kong, kings. The drawings show 4 of them clearly: Godzilla, Mothra, Rodan, King Ghidorah. The last image on the wall shows 2 of them face to face, Godzilla and Ghidorah locked in battle. The world is much bigger than anyone thought, and it is full of things that have been waiting, hidden, for a very long time.